In this video, we're going to be going through how to figure out which ads are your best ads and then how you should create more of them. So, this is going to be pretty simple, to be honest, but there's going to be a little bit of technical noise in the mix here. So, first things first, we're just going to go inside of an ad account that is running a whole lot of creative. Okay, so in this ad account, and just like I've gone through in our graduation process, there's a very simple way to figure out which ads are actually working the best, right? And that way is by going to your columns, going to your compare attribution settings, clicking incremental attribution, and then finding the ads that drive the best incremental attribution in terms of return on ad spend incrementally and graduating those ads into your scale campaign. Now, I'm not here to tell you how to graduate. What I am here to show you is how do we then build more creative concepts from the ones that already work. So I can't show you some of the ads that I have here because this is client confidential information. I know most of this will be blurred out. Now, what I can show you is some of the metrics. So when we look at incremental attribution, as we can see in this right-hand column here, it's always going to be worse than 7-day click, 1-day view, which is obviously normal because we are eliminating most of the conversions that happen that would have occurred without Facebook. Now, in this case, 1.31 incremental return on ad spend. This is just what the client needs in this case. They don't really need like a 2x or something really, really high, but that's nor here nor there. This is all unique to your own goals, right? So I'm not saying this is the perfect way. I just want to show you how it's done. So what we're looking for are the ads that have above average or doing well overall in terms of high spend and at your target return on ad spend. So right off the bat, I can tell you that ad number 1, ad number 4, ad number 6, and that's just about it for this top round are ads that are all working super well. And the way that I can tell that they're working super well is because if we go to their spend, these ads have spent 15,000, 10,000, 8,000. Now, of total, that is a high amount of total spend. And of incremental return on ad spend, these are all above the average of 1.31, which is the client's target. So they're all doing the job that we need them to do. So what would we do with this creative next? Yes, we would graduate it, but what would we actually do to create more variations of this creative? So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to show you if, for example, this was one of the ads. If this ad, which it's not, if this was one of the ads that I just showed you that's working super well, how would I take this ad and change it to create iterations of this ad? Now, it goes absolutely without saying here that you should already have a square and a vertical of every single image. That is not an iteration that I'm speaking on here. The way that I would then create iterations of this ad are in a more substantial way than you might imagine. Most people, when they think of iterations, they think, okay, let's make the lighting a little bit less like grainy or orangey. Let's, maybe increase the contrast. Let's maybe change the background a little bit. While some of those could work, maybe, they generally result in very, very little, very small incremental impact. Before I actually tell you what changes I would make here, we need to understand why these changes are so important to make. And just to be straight up, this is the stuff I can't talk about anywhere else. So if I geek out on this stuff, stick with me. So basically, as you spend money on a specific creative, which we're going to use with the red line here, as you spend money on this red line, your creative, it scales, and then it starts to fatigue, and then eventually it starts to die out until it level sets at a certain plateau, right? And then it might stay at this level of spend forever. Rough example. What winds up happening is you have, this is what we'll call this red is called the V1, right? This is V1. Now, as the ad scales for the first time in this chunk of a period here, you're identifying this thing's a winner. We need more of it. When you identify that it's a winner, now it's time to insert V2. Now, right off the bat, V2 is not just going to woo and just crush it, right? What might happen with V2, I'm going to reduce this timeline here so we can actually see. So first off, we have V1, right? And then it fades, or V1 does super well, and then it plateaus, okay? V2 might come into play right around here, midway through, let's say. And when it starts, it might just get a little bit of spend. But just like V1, it will eventually pick up if it's a solid variation and then plateau again. The key of this is if you were only running 2 creatives, which we're not obviously only running 2 creatives, but if you were only running 2 creatives, then what would happen is V1 would start and it would spend and then it would die. V2 would start spending later and it would create an inverse relationship, right? Now, eventually what winds up happening is all of these plateau, and therefore, guess what? V1 actually starts to spend a little bit more again, right? Because it's fading the cash into whatever's working the best. What would I actually change? Key elements. We are changing big, key, massive elements. Color. Change the top that this girl is wearing. Change the, well, I mean, this is a sweatpants ad. Change the top that she's wearing first. B, change the sweatpant color. After that, change these shots here on the left side. Okay, these are easy changes. Change the headline. Hot girl fit, zero effort. That's one of the easiest things you can change. You could take this exact ad and make 20 different headlines of it if you know it crushes for you. Toss it into Claude and find 50 different variations of this or different headlines that you might think of for your brand. Then after we're done with those first rounds of easy swaps, then we do the same thing with a different model, right? So we take a different looking woman and we switch in same pose, same set, right? So in this case, like, I don't really know her like ethnicity, but you take someone of a different ethnicity. You go from a white girl to someone with like darker skin, or you go to someone with very pale skin, right? You switch up the concepts and you keep the core elements. We're changing one big variable at a time. You might even try the same thing, showing her face, right? So like angle down a little bit. You might try the same thing zoomed out, right? There's just like easy big swings that you can take to create a lot of iterations very, very quickly. The headlines mean a lot. The color of the product mean a lot. The zoom of the camera and amount of information the consumer is grabbing within the photo means a lot. All of these will result in different impact, but ultimately, as a concept, this is the big key. Forget my stupid graphs here. As a concept, if you think about one creative that you run, a lot of people think of like they created V1 and it did this, and they created V2 and it spent a little bit less. But if you think about these as a unit, right? Like all of the variations of this ad together, all of the different variations you created, the variations as a unit will fatigue slower. So while most of the time, let's say they fatigue at a rate that looks like this, and they slowly start to fade away, they stop performing and therefore stop spending. If you continue to add variations in play and you're always iterating on what's working the best, then your fatigue line looks more like this. It just takes longer to start to droop down. So we want to always extend the window of success. And we do that by having a lot of iterations available. And this is why we see, if we look actually at Talentless right here, this is why we see in there perfect, literally perfect example. First 2 ads that came up launched 3 days ago. They have 2 iterations of the exact same ad. Their 80% summer sale has been going on for like 2 weeks. This was launched 6 days ago. Watch as I scroll down. These were launched 10 days ago, right? They're just iterations of the same thing. We have iterations of the same ads over and over and over again being deployed so that as the old fatigue, the new stay. Critical. Super, super important. Don't run your ads until they die. Keep adding new ones on. And then what winds up happening is, as a concept, yes, it works just like this, but also that first ad, this blue line here, that first ad also extends its power too, extends its life, because you're not showing the same ad to the same people every second. So important.